This is a video for how to go about creating a complex image through using geometric construction and tools in the sketch menu in Autodesk Fusion. You will notice on the screen that we have a complex image here with some concentric circles, meaning circles share the same center point, and we have a couple of things here we will call slots that will actually utilize the slot command in the sketch menu within Autodesk Fusion. And then also we have some tangent kind of arcs out here, and we're going to show how to go about creating this image in Fusion. But to start, we want to make sure that we are in the correct dimensional unit. And just by looking off the dimensions on this, I don't see anything that says inches or millimeters. We're going to assume that this is in millimeters, just for the sake of discussion. So what I need to do is make sure that Fusion is set to millimeters for when we start actually making the sketch. So we're going to come over to the browser, and we're going to go down to Document Settings. And you'll notice that I am by default in inches. And we're going to go ahead and just come over and click on the Change Active Units button here, and when I click on that little pencil, you're going to see it says, unit system, and we're going to come down from where it says inch, and I want to make sure that I'm in millimeters. I do not by default usually design in millimeters, so I don't want to check this box, but if by chance that was your default, you can go ahead and click that box and it will set that as your default. I'm going to say OK. We're going to go up to Create Sketch, and I want to come over to my Origin menu again, and I want to come down to where it says XZ Plane. I know you can come out here and kind of in the graphics window kind of just select whatever you want. I personally like using this Origin menu, and I'm going to click on XZ. Notice that when I said XZ, you will see X in the x-axis and z in the y-axis here, and you're also going to see front, which I'm just saying is z is vertical, x is horizontal. Traditionally when we look at an axis, we think x and y, and we have our origin right here. Now let's come back and take a look at our image together. And you'll notice that some of these lines on here are dark and bold, and those are known as object lines. We have these other lines that are kind of dashed lines, and these are known as construction lines. And we're going to start out by creating our construction line. And the first construction line we're going to draw is the one that's going to go from our origin to the right, a distance of 36 millimeters. So I'm going to come up and grab a hold of line, and when I click on the line command, I want to come over to my sketch palette, and I want to make sure my line type is set to construction. Construction lines are not part of the finished object for when we're completed with the sketch. They're just something known as like a guide, if you will. They're just to give us some parameters. We're going to click on the origin, and we're going to drag to the right, and we're going to put in 36, and we're going to hit enter. And you'll see now that I have one line to the right that is a construction line, a distance of 36. Notice the construction line is a dashed line. It is not a solid like object line. It is a dashed line. It is a construction line. Our next line we want to create is from the origin to the left, and it basically says, whatever the difference between 81 and 36 is, that's the distance of this line. Now what's nice about Fusion is Fusion will do some math for you. So we're going to grab a hold of the line command, and I'm going to click and just start dragging to the left, and I will put an 81 minus 36 and hit enter, and automatically it will calculate a distance of 45 for us. We now have for ourselves from the origin here a distance to the right 36 and a distance to the left that came out to be 45. Next thing we want to do is we want to find ourselves a point right here that is a distance of 10, and we could grab a hold of the line command and draw back in, but I personally like to use the point command when I do this. We're going to go up to create, and we're going to go down to point. And I just want to not click here. I'm not going to click. I'm just going to reference this and drag along and give myself a point. Hit the letter D on my keyboard for dimension, and I'm going to go from point to point and go up a distance of 10. And I now have that point perfectly spaced, a distance to the right of 10 millimeters. We have this over here now. Now our next line that we want to draw is we're going to go up vertically a distance of 35. Notice I can follow those extension lines out and see that's a distance of 35 millimeters. We're going to come back into Fusion. I'm going to go back to my origin here where I have my my large black dot here. Hit the letter L on my keyboard. I'm going to click, come straight up a distance of 35 and hit enter. Let's zoom out a little bit. I'm going to drag this over so we can just see our actual image again. Now we're up here. We came directly up a distance of 35. Now we're going to come over a distance of 10. Grab a hold of line, come over to the left, we'll put in 10. We're going to go ahead and hit enter. Now note that we have for ourselves 4 construction lines. Again, we have this construction selected. We have a vertical line, a height of 35. We came over 10 from there. Our next construction line we want to draw is this one that says 30 degrees. And I want you to notice that this line comes way out here. It doesn't really snap any place. All we're trying to get is just a perfect construction line here that is 30 degrees from the first line that we drew. Let's grab a hold of the line and let's go down to our origin. And as I drag out, I'm just going to come way out here. It does not really matter the distance. And once I drag out, I just take my hand off my mouse and I'm going to hit tab and I'm going to put in 30. And now it guarantees that we have a line that is perfectly 30 degrees from our original line that we drew. Let's hit escape twice. Notice that it kind of extends kind of that line out to here, but we still have our point right here of 36, which is what we really want. That will help us with some stuff here in a minute. So we have one other construction line to draw, and that is this like arc or this curve in here. And this is what we'll call kind of a construction, circle or an arc. And we're going to use the circle command to do this. Now you might see that we don't have anything really specifically telling us what the radius of this is, but we kind of do because we have the origin here and we have the distance of 36. This right here would be a perfect, let's say, quadrant of a circle if we were looking at points, north, south, east, west, NESW here. This right over here would be the east point. This would be right at a 0 or let's say 90-degree point of a circle. Let's go up and grab a hold of circle. We're going to go to our origin. We're going to drag straight out and we're going to snap right here to this 36. That is that arc that we were looking for. That allowed us to draw that. We're going to come up and grab a hold of the trim tool and we're going to trim away everything that is not part of that arc that we wanted. And this is just a little bit of geometric construction. We were able just to snap here, just to take away everything else I don't want. I only needed this point just to get me this arc right here. And we have for ourselves some construction of some geometry. So everything else, you'll notice, is going to be in an object line. That is the bold black lines you see on your screen. The construction lines just kind of gave us a guide of where we were headed. We're going to go over an uncheck construction because we're actually going to start sketching things within object lines now. And there's different ways to go about creating what we'll call a slot over here on the right side, and over here we could draw some circles and do a whole bunch of other circles and do tangency and stuff. But what's nice about Fusion is Fusion has some tools that we can use to create those slots. And we're going to go up to create. We're going to go down to slot, and I want you to go to 3-point arc slot. And it's going to ask us for some center points first. And our first center point, we'll say it is right up here where our arc meets the 30-degree line. And the next point will be right down here where we had the kind of that distance of 36 meet the bottom of that little arc. And one thing we want to do is we want to kind of click along this line. As soon as I see it snap along this line, I'm going to click and I'm going to drag out. And as I drag out, I want you to put in a distance of 8 and hit enter. And notice how it went on ahead and created that slot. Notice how now that is filled in blue. And we have for ourselves an area within this. And if I go back, I told you to put in like a distance of 8. That's the diameter here. So we're going to go back and take a look at, we have radius of 4 here. And how could we possibly check that? We can go up to the inspect tool, click on one of our arcs down here, and it'll say a radius of 4, a diameter of 8. So what we need is we need one that's a distance that has a radius of 8. So when we drag out, we're going to go 16 on the next one. Let's go to create. Let's go down to slot. Let's go to 3-point arc slot. Center point. Center point. We're going to make sure it snaps right along. And as we drag out, we're going to put in a distance of 16. That would be the diameter. Again, the radius here is 8, so the diameter would be 16. Let's just jump right back in. We now have ourselves 2 separate little areas in here. And we now perfectly have that nice slot shape. We did not have to sketch a bunch of circles and do a bunch of tangency. It automatically gives us these tangent, geometric relationships here. It's a nice tool to use within Fusion. Now, our next slot is this one right here, and it's not curved. It's just along a nice, easy horizontal line. So let's zoom in over here. Just as a reminder, wherever you put your mouse in Fusion is where it will zoom. So I have my pointer right here. I'm just zooming in right in this area. Let's go up to create. And we're going to go down to slot again, and we're just going to go to center slot. I'm going to click, I'm going to click, and as I drag out, let's just take a look. Let's go back here. We have to do a radius of 4, so we're going to, as we drag out, we're going to go a distance of 8, and we're going to hit enter. Our next one has a radius of 8, so we're going to go 16 on the next one. We're going to go to create, got to go to slot, we're going to go to center slot, here to here. As I drag out, put a distance of 16. So we have ourselves our two separate slots here. Worked out really well for us. It lined it up right here, and that was just some, we had 3 clicks total for each. The thing I want to emphasize is, as we went through and did this, you can see the distance of 10 here. I can see all of my tangency. Let's grab a hold of inspect, and we're going to go ahead and click on one of these outside arcs, and it says the biggest one is a radius of 8 and a diameter of 16. We have the radius of 8. If you ever want to check your work, the measure tool is a really, really great feature within Fusion. Now, next, we have some concentric circles to create, and we'll go ahead and create our first 2 up here at the top. We have one that is a diameter of 32. We have one that is a diameter of 24. The circle with a line through it is the diameter symbol, 32 and 24. We're going to grab a hold of circle. We're going to come right up here. I'm going to put in 32. I'm going to hit C on my keyboard again, grab a hold of that center point, and I'm going to go to 24. Once again, we'll just jump right back and take a look. We got 32 and 24. We got these up here at the top. Now we want to create our new ones down here at our origin point. We have got 30 and we have got 20. I'm going to hit C on my keyboard, grab a hold of my origin. I'm going to click out 30, hit C again, and then we're going to go ahead and click, create 20. Notice again that we have blue, this light blue area that's giving us centers. What Fusion is saying is I see something that I could extrude, or if we were trying to revolve or something, we wouldn't really be revolving out of this, but what Fusion is saying is I see area that I can do something with to create a solid. So we now have, kind of the geometry that might make a little bit more, let's say, sense to you as you took a look at it. Like I know what an arc is, I know what this is, but what are these things? These are tangent arcs, and there's more than one way to create these, and I personally have a way I like to do these that kind of guarantee tangency here, and I like to do circles and then use the tangent geometric constraint feature myself. So we have one that's a radius of 30. So what we're going to do is we're going to click, and so just anywhere you want out here, I'm just going to click and drag and just create a circle. Notice I didn't really dimension it, but once I drag one out, I'm going to hit the letter D on my keyboard, and I'm going to click on the outside of that circle. And as I drag out, I'm going to right click and go down to radius. And see how I have R right here. And we have a radius out here of 30. And as I drag out, I'm going to click and I'm going to put in 30. You might be saying, couldn't you have just said 60 for diameter? And you're right, but I wanted to show how to put in a radius. And I'm going to click, and we now have ourselves a radius of 30 circle here. Now what we want is we want to make this tangent to this curve and this curve, and we can do that by utilizing geometric constraints, and we're going to utilize the tangent geometric constraint, and that symbol is this circle. I always say it looks like a circle with like a ruler resting on it. What tangency means is that the arc or the line will rest on the edge but will not go through it. So in this way, think about taking a tennis ball and resting up against one tennis ball and another tennis ball, and it touches the tennis ball but it doesn't go through it. Let's go up to tangent, and we're going to click on our outside our large circle first, and then go ahead and click on our edge here. Click on our circle, click on our edge. We now have this guaranteed that it's rested up against the edge. Grab a hold of trim and trim off the outside. We now have that arc just by really just taking a circle and just resting it up against the other ones. We're going to do the same thing, except for this time, just for the sake of time in the video, we're just going to go ahead and double our radius and just go ahead and use diameter. So we have we have a radius of 24. Our diameter will be 48. I'm just going to click out here. I'm just going to put in 48. Grab a hold of tangent. Grab a hold of our circle to this edge, and make sure when you click on this one, make sure that you're clicking on the circle, not on the top line, on the circle on the side, on that little arc. Let's grab a hold of tangent. Let's trim that off. Let's come down here to the bottom. Let's look at our other ones. Radius of 16, diameter will be 32. Let's grab a hold of our circle. I put in 32. Let's grab a hold of tangent. We're going to go ahead and just rest it right up against that edge, rest it up against this edge. Go ahead and grab a hold of trim. Notice how we're getting these. These are nice and constrained, working very, very well. Next one is 16 over here. Once again, we'll just go into 32 for our diameter. Just about anywhere out here. I'm going to put in 32. Let's drag this out a little bit because it was overlapping. I'm going to come up and click on tangent. We now have for ourselves tangency. We have for ourselves tangency here, and we're going to trim that out. Now, it's nice. We have a lot of blue in here. I can hit escape twice on my keyboard just to make sure I can actually, get in and actually see that we have for ourselves an area here. So notice that Fusion's given us area all through here. That means that these points are tangent. If I poured water anywhere in this gray area, nothing would leak out. I have the areas that I want. I got my complex geometry made. We use geometric construction, and I'm going to say finish sketch. And you might think, well, what in the world would this be used for? Let's just grab a hold of extrude real quick, and I'm going to click on, just kind of the inside, of some of these rings here and then this slot over here. I got two slots and I got myself these outside circles. I'm just going to go ahead and just kind of drag out this way. I'm on the negative side of the plane. I'm just going to drag out, like, let's just say -10, and I'm going to say okay. And I got just these kind of rings right here, right? See that? Now, if I want to turn back on the sketch, because you're like, man, where did the sketch go? Let's go over to sketches and let's turn back on the sketch. And I can see my other geometry here. I'm going to grab a hold of extrude, and that middle part, let's say that was just kind of meant to come out a distance of, I'm going to go -2 on this and just say okay. Let's turn off the visibility of the sketch. Now I can kind of come in and rotate this. And this could be, and a lot of times when I think of complex geometry like this, I think of gaskets for cars. This could be kind of a complex kind of, shape for an auto part or something like that. But this is, what maybe something like this could be used for. One thing I want you to notice is this tangency goes nice and right up to the edge. If a marble rolled off of this, it would not hit like a bump right here. It would just go straight down. That's real nice and smooth on both sides. You will see a line here just kind of signifying where this curve rests into this curve, but you would not necessarily have a bump. I don't see like this like little ridge in here or something like that. Maybe there might be a little one in here, but I don't really see too much of a place for me to rest my mouse. I think it would just come right down on that ridge. If by chance, there was, you can always go back over, right click and go to edit sketch, and it looks like it's nice and perfectly tangent. If by chance we had some surface in here, we could do some, geometry in here as well. But just go to finish sketch. Nice geometry here, just through some little geometric construction. One thing I want you to notice is, Fusion gives us a lot of options and a lot of ways to create these without having to create more shapes. We did our slots without having to draw a bunch of circles and lines. We just had 3 simple clicks for each one of these slots around the outside. Nice and simple. So this has been a video for how to go about creating complex geometry through using geometric construction and some some Fusion sketch tools within Autodesk Fusion.